Hello and welcome back to Football Daily. The World Cup has had it all, from spitting to headbutts, tears and everything in between. But here are our top 10 World Cup meltdowns. 10. Roy Keane. Having played superbly during qualification, finishing second and unbeaten behind Portugal at the expense of Holland, Mick McCarthy's Ireland were full of confidence going into the 2002 World Cup. Captain Keane had some long-standing issues with the Irish FA. A boy from Cork, he disagreed with their Dublin-centric system, and was also furious with McCarthy for accusing him of faking an injury ahead of their second-leg playoff against Iran. So when he arrived at their training camp in Sepang to discover that none of their kit had been delivered and they had an unwatered pitch to train on, Keane went berserk, calling McCarthy a who can stick the World Cup up his arse. Keane went home, always sent home depending on who you listen to, and nearly walked his golden Labrador Triggs to death, whilst the Irish rallied to reach the last 16 where they were knocked out on penalties by Spain. Having been named as his country's player of the tournament 8 years earlier, Keane had thrown away his opportunity for his principles to the detriment of both himself and his country. 9. Graham Poll. Graham Poll refereed 1,544 matches between 1991 and the 2007 Championship playoff final, including the 2005 UEFA Cup final and 2 World Cups and 1 Euros. Despite this impressive CV, he will undoubtedly be remembered for one match and one moment. Never afraid of issuing a card, Poll, who had given out 3.4 yellows per Premier League match in that season, was chosen as England's only representative at the 2006 World Cup. He was instantly in the thick of the action, issuing 1 red and 6 yellows in his first 2 games. But he is most synonymous with the matchup between Croatia and Australia in the final match of Group F, which would decide who would finish second behind Brazil. The Croats knew only a win would do and were 2-1 up entering the 60th minute. With the pressure building in Stuttgart, man of the match Harry Kewell equalised in the 70th minute, leading to 3 red cards in the final 10 minutes. But in the 90th minute, Josip Simonic received his second yellow of the match, and Poll forgot to send him off, having written down the wrong number for the original offence. Although Simonic was eventually sent off 3 minutes later for dissent, the error had been made and Poll was sent home after the group stages along with the Croats. 8. Paul Gascoigne. In June 1990, Gazza was a 23-year-old central midfielder, finishing his 6th year as a professional footballer for first Newcastle, then Spurs, who had averaged a goal every 0.2 First Division games over the previous 5 years. Despite having a team containing the likes of Robson, Barnes and Lineker, the Three Lions had struggled out of their group, needing a 1-0 win over Egypt, in which their creator Fulcrum Gazza provided the assist to progress. But as soon as it entered the knockouts, Gazza hit top form, with 2 assists and a goal in the last 16 and the quarter-final, setting up a semi-final clash against West Germany. The match entered extra time at 1-1, with Gazza playing through his skin. But in the 99th minute, he overstretched after losing the ball and caught Thomas Berthold, forcing Jose Roberto Wright, voted the best referee at the tournament, to pull out a yellow card. Having been booked against Belgium in the second round, England's hero knew he would be ruled out of the final should they make it there. The tears flowed and he pulled out of the penalty shootout. Waddle replaced him, blazed over the bar, and England were out. 7. Frank Rijkaard. Germany and the Netherlands have had some titanic battles. The 1974 final, which denied the great Cruyff the trophy, is labelled the mother of all defeats by the vanquished Dutch. 14 years later, they came back from 1 down to triumph 2-1 in the Euros final, causing Dutch commentator Evert ten Napel to proclaim justice at last. It was therefore inevitable that when they met once again in the second round of the 1990 World Cup, there would be fireworks. And so it proved just 20 minutes into the clash when centre-back Rijkaard cut down Rudi Völler, earning him his second booking of the tournament. Already ruled out of their potential quarter-final, he lost his head and spat on Rudi Völler's back. A few minutes later, Rijkaard once again clashed with Völler, Germany's 4th all-time top scorer, and both were given their marching orders. As they headed for their early bars, the 46-cap Rijkaard gobbed into Völler's permed mullet. Although his subsequent apology was accepted, Rijkaard's disgusting act is firmly established in World Cup folklore. 6. Ariel Ortega. After Diego Maradona tested positive for a banned stimulant at the 1994 World Cup, 20-year-old playmaker Ariel Ortega was forced into his shoes for the last 16 clash against Romania. Ortega struggled and the Albiceleste lost 3-2, but he vowed to return stronger in 4 years. He did, arriving from Jorge Valdane's Valencia, who had bought him after his 0.3 goals per game had helped River Plate to a league and Copa Libertadores title. At 24, he, along with key players like Diego Simeone and Gabriel Batistuta, were entering their prime. Ortega played exceptionally well Ireland was involved in 80% of Argentina's 9 goals as they crushed their group before beating England on penalties in the last 16. Expectations were high going into their quarter-final clash against the Dutch, but the volatile Ortega was suffocated out of the game and his frustrations bowled over. He dived under a Yapstam challenge in an attempt to win a penalty, but Mexican referee Arturo Charter didn't buy it. Edwin van der Sar, nearly a foot taller than the Argentine, protested, earning him a vicious headbutt to the chin. Ortega was sent off and Dennis Bergkamp sent his country out 3 minutes later. 5. Brazil 2014. When it comes to World Cups, hosting is a massive advantage. Uruguay, Italy, England, West Germany, Argentina and France won on home soil, and relative underdogs Sweden, Chile and South Korea all reached their tournament semi-finals. But for the Brazil squad of 2014, having not won for 12 years, it proved a massive burden. They never truly got going, topping their group on goal difference, needing penalties to vanquish Chile in the last 16 and a David Luiz rocket to beat Colombia in the quarter-finals. Without the injured Neymar, the Brazilians were overcome with emotion for their semi-final and suffered the ultimate humiliation. Despite not having lost a semi-final for 76 years and being unbeaten in competitive home games for 39 years, they were ripped apart, conceding 5 goals in the opening 29 minutes. They didn't have a shot on target until the 55th minute, eventually losing 7-1 and joined Zaire and Haiti in being the only teams in World Cup history to be 5-0 down at half-time. Brutal. 4. 1966's defeated sides. Although many people will think of Eusebio, North Korea, Herskell and Bobby Moore when they nostalgically recall 1966, for many other nations it was a disgrace, a competition marred by poor refereeing decision. Take, for example, the quarter-finals. Both England and West Germany faced 10 men, as German and English referees sent off opponents. There were also frequent accusations of foul play. Pelé said the force of some unpunished challenges left him considering quitting the game. The Uruguayans, Argentinians and Italians all complained about biased refereeing, with Italian paper Il Messaggero publishing an article entitled "Scandal in London, Too Much Favouritism for the England Team," whilst Portuguese paper Avanti called it an ugly mess of a World Cup. Even Bolivian paper Presencia, whose nation wasn't even represented, claimed the English hatched a football conspiracy against Latin America. Highly unlikely and almost impossible to prove, it's clear that many teams weren't happy with the standard of officialing at England's crowning glory. 3. Brazil fans 1950. The deciding match of the 1950 World Cup, not technically the final but instead the last round-robin game in the final pool, a ridiculous FIFA directive, wasn't a debacle on the 7-1 scale but has arguably had a bigger impact on Brazilian football history. Results elsewhere meant Brazil were heavy favourites to win the first post-war World Cup. Not only were they playing at home, they were the reigning Copa America champions, having beaten opponents Uruguay 5-1 on the way to the title and only needed a draw. Despite having 17 first-half efforts, they couldn't find the breakthrough. Early in the second half, they took the lead, but 2 second-half goals from Uruguay stunned the Maracanã into silence. Brazil was shocked. The stadium announcer forgot to say the winner, with people lying prostrate with grief. The Manchester Guardian reported that 169 people were treated by stadium doctors for fits of hysteria and 6 were taken to hospital seriously ill. David Luiz's tears look pretty small fry now. 2. John Aldridge. Despite being born and raised in Liverpool, striker John Aldridge proudly represented Ireland 69 times between 1986 and 1996. In 1994, they were drawn in a difficult pool with Italy, Mexico and Norway. Having beaten Italy 1-0 thanks to a stunning Ray Houghton strike, they were full of confidence heading into their next game against Mexico in Orlando. 2-0 down in the 66th minute, manager Jack Charlton was desperate to throw on Aldridge in a double substitution. Charlton had left his kitman, who was an ex-referee, in charge of filling out substitution requests to then give to the 4th official. But before it reached the official, it was taken by a FIFA member, meaning the substitutions couldn't be authorised. The 61-cap striker then completely lost it and was restrained as he called the official a cheat. Although he got on 6 minutes later and scored a crucial goal which led to their second-round qualification, he had provided one of the iconic images of the World Cup. 1. Zinedine Zidane. On the 9th of July 2006, Zinedine Zidane provided one of the most outrageous and controversial moments in sporting history. The Ballon d'Or winner's World Cup record reads 12 matches, 5 wins, 5 goals, 2 red cards, 2 finals, 1 win. The World Cup was a tournament that showed the very best of him, the 1998 final and the 2006 quarter-final, and the very worst of him, of which the 2006 final can definitely be included. It was the first final in 6 that didn't feature Brazil or Germany, and the first all-European affair since 1982. Dubbed as a clash between the Italian defence, which had conceded just once on the way to the final, and French flair, a team of Ribéry, Henry and Zidane that had scored 9 goals en route. The game was all about the 108-cap Zidane, who opened the scoring with a cool Panenka and whose header was tipped onto the bar, and Inter Milan defender Materazzi, who is causing mayhem from corners and who equalised for the Azzurri. With the scores at 1-1 entering the final 10 minutes of extra time, Zidane, provoked by the defender's comments about his mother, turned around and unleashed a headbutt of vicious ferocity into his chest. Zizou was of course sent off in his swan song and was forced to walk past the trophy, which would be held aloft by Cannavaro just 20 minutes later. Congratulations, you've reached the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you're looking for more great content, why don't you click in this box here? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.